When I decided to leave Brooklyn for Park Hill, my friends and family responded as if I was moving to Mars. Park Hill really was a secret neighborhood then. I'm Gary Brewer. I am an architect in New York City. Welcome to my house in Park Hill. Frankly, I have a love-hate relationship with modern architecture, and I've always been mostly interested in traditional design, which I think you can see in the work that I do. I've always been interested in historic houses and neighborhoods. I like their designs, I like their interior architecture, I like their gardens. It was what I found so appealing about the Park Hill neighborhood. I bought this house in 1998 after living in Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn, and before that I had lived in Manhattan in the Village. At the time, I was working on a project at Wave Hill Gardens in the Riverdale section of the Bronx. And one weekend, there was an article in the New York Times in the Thinking of Living In section. They wrote up Park Hill as a planned community. They had pictures of 3 houses on the market. So I drove up to this house, and what I found so appealing is the house is set high on a hill, and so I always liked the idea of looking up at a house, and it also seemed like it had a certain amount of privacy. When I toured through the house, there was a lot that hadn't been done, so I knew it was going to take a lot of work to do it, but my initial reaction was, wow, that looks really amazing from the street. The house as a style is called an American Foursquare. We're popular from the 1880s to maybe the 1930s or 1940s because it's a compact little box-like house. And it's called a Foursquare because when you take the floor plan and you divide it into 4 squares, and oftentimes the stair is in the middle, and the second floor also has typically 4 rooms, and it oftentimes has a porch that's facing the front. And they come in a variety of styles. They can be craftsman, they can be colonial. I mean, this house has a little bit of everything. I kind of joke that it's a bit of a mutt. It's about 2,000 square feet, and it has the essentials of what I think makes any new house or old house nice. When I bought the house, there was not a lot of detail on the interior. So I decided early on that whatever I was going to do would be period appropriate, and I would add things that would make the house better and more of what it might have or should have been. You enter in from the front door, and there is a small entry hall that opens to the stair. The living room is 2 squares of the American Foursquare, and it's nice that it has triple exposure, meaning it has windows that face both the front, the side, and the back garden. Everything in the room is essentially new, although it looks historic. All the trim, the mantelpiece, the tile, the new larger windows, it's all new. As far as the interior design, most of it I did on my own, and I have worked with some of the best interior designers in the country on the house projects I have done, and I've learned a lot from them, and it also has made me really appreciate how difficult it is to do interior design, especially if it's a sort of do-it-yourself kind of endeavor. And it was an ongoing thing. I mean, I'm constantly changing things. I've been collecting since I came to New York in the late 80s. I spent a lot of time going to the flea market in Manhattan and Chelsea, which was such an interesting scene. I mean, you would see Andy Warhol and Diane Keaton and just really interesting people there. As a longtime board member of the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art, I'm very interested in classical design, and I think you can see it in the objects I collect at home. Originally, the kitchen was a disaster, but I sort of feel as an architect it's easy to see past cosmetic things that you don't like. And so when I redid the kitchen, I added new windows. I added all of the trim that you see in there. I kept most of the cabinet boxes. I had new glass fronts made for the cabinets. I had the island made. I did new stone tops. And it also opens up to the back garden, which is quite nice. I wanted a kind of more relaxed feeling, less kind of classical. And One time when I had a group of friends over, someone's wife said to me, "Oh my God, I love your kitchen. It's just like my grandmother's," which I kind of thought was charming, I think. But I sort of like that feeling, and in the things that I've collected in the kitchen, it kind of, I guess, reinforces that vibe. Going from the ground floor, there's a stair that is in the center of a house, and it takes you up to the second floor. Once had 4 tiny little bedrooms and 1 outdated bathroom. So I turned 2 bedrooms by removing a wall into a primary bedroom, which was big enough to fit a queen-size bed. I also added all of the trim. I added extra closets because old houses oftentimes don't have enough closet space. In front of the closets, I did Italian murals, and I also added a sort of charming little window seat. And it has a green grass cloth wall covering. So I like to think that the primary bedroom is like being in a tree house. It carries the color of the trees and nature into the room. Other rooms on the second floor, there is a small study that faces an upper level terrace with French doors. And it was fitted out as a bedroom, which I didn't really need. I needed a study. So I repurposed the design, and I added the bookcases in there because I have a lot of books. And I have a roll-top desk in there, and I'm also interested in craftsman style architecture, and I have been collecting craftsman style pieces for a long time. So that was the inspiration for that room. On the second floor, there's also a small guest bedroom. It is big enough for a queen-size bed, and has a closet and a side table, and sometimes it's used as a guest room. It faces away from the street, so it's quite quiet. The thing about guest rooms is kind of nice that it's small because it means people aren't going to be staying a long time. So up in the attic is a small room, and it was originally kind of a bedroom, and there was an odd little toilet in one of the dormers. So I redesigned it as a home office, especially with, the era of COVID. And I did the built-in bookcases. I did the new window seat. I recovered the walls in grass cloth. I added new lighting. And so it works as a home office. The house has a lower level basement, and it had a dirt floor, and it didn't have a ceiling. And one of the last projects I did was to turn it into a room. Essentially, it's a laundry room combined with another place to work from home. As everything else in my house is more traditional, and I'm interested in mid-century modern, I thought the lower level might be inspired by that and have a Rat Pack type of style. I have a little record player down there, along with a collection of Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin vinyls. So it's nice because it adds extra square footage, and then when the laundry is done, you're not doing it in an unfinished room. Most people do not know that Yonkers, after San Francisco, is the hilliest city in the United States. It's set on a plateau 300 feet above the Hudson River, so some of the houses have sweeping views of the Hudson River. I mean, it's 25 minutes away by train, and on a good day, 30 minutes to Midtown in a car, but it seems so far away in terms of the landscape, and it really is, architecturally and in terms of gardens, is a significant American historic place. This house is set far away from the street, and most of the property is in front with a small garden in the rear. And having spent most of my life traveling to see historic gardens, the historic Untermeyer Gardens, designed by William Wells Bosworth in Yonkers, was certainly a high point for inspiration. The backyard had half of it was a dog kennel covered in gravel, and the other half was a swing set. So everything that you see in the back garden is all brand new, all the planting, all of the stone walls. I use the gardens and the porches and the outdoor spaces for entertaining. So when I have people over for events, we set up a table for drinks, and In a way, I sort of think of my house as my summer house, except for it's 25 minutes away from Manhattan, and I don't have to only drive there on weekends. The previous owner gave me a little note card with dates of who lived in it for how long and the sequence of the homeowner. It included the dates during the Depression when the bank owned the house. And it was such a touching moment. I think of home ownership as being a steward of that house and in fact of the neighborhood as well. I found this house in not so great shape, and I'd like to think that the changes that I've made has made it better. When I pass the house on to a new owner, I want to make sure that they love the house as much as I do. And I will give them the actual note card with the dates and names of the homeowners on it, except for I will write in my little name and my little dates, and I will pass it on to somebody younger who will take it from there. Home ownership is about making a place better.